So this is lesson 11.2a. We're going to talk about multiplying matrices today, and we're going to talk about the process for this. Today we're going to use this with no calculator. Tomorrow we'll be multiplying with a calculator. So for today, we're going to focus on using the dimensions to multiply and multiplying by hand. And then tomorrow will be the lesson on how to use a graphing calculator to do this. The first thing you need to know about multiplying two matrices is that you're multiplying the rows and columns, okay? What is important is that the columns of the first are the same as the rows of the second. In other words, we compare the dimensions to see if we can even multiply. The only way you can multiply, for example, would be if you had a 3 by 2 times a 2 by 1 is if these middle two are the same, okay? If we tried to multiply a 2 by 3 by a 2 by 1, that wouldn't work because these inner dimensions are not the same, okay? So you must always, always, always check the dimensions first. You don't want to get in there and try to start multiplying, and then you can't because the dimensions aren't right, okay? So first of all, we're just going to talk about the dimensions, see if we can do this. If we are given A is a 4 by 3 and B is a 3 by 2, can we do AB? Now, order matters. That means that A is first and B is second. So we want to check A, then B, and see if the inner dimensions are the same. In this case, they are. So yes, we could multiply it. Okay? Now looking at BA, so this time we're going to take a 5 by 2 times a 3 by 2. This is B, this is A. Order matters. Notice that these inner ones are not the same. So this is a no, we cannot multiply that. Let me back up a second, actually. Once we know that we can multiply, I should say, we can then find the dimensions. So if this first one we can multiply, it means that the answer is going to be a 4 by 2. So the outer dimensions are the size of the new matrix, okay, when you're doing that. That becomes really helpful because that's going to help us figure out where the pieces go and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, let's compare here. So here we have a 2 by 2 and here we have a 2 by 3. So the first question is, can we multiply? Yes, we can. What are the dimensions going to be? This is going to be a 2 by 3 when we get our answer, okay? This next one here is a 2 by 2. This one is a 3 by 2. Can we multiply? No, we cannot. Whoops. Because the inner dimensions are not the same. So this one is not multipliable. We can't do it, okay? When we are multiplying, here's the process. When we multiply A times B, we multiply each row by each column, okay? So we're going to multiply row by column and add the pieces. Row by column and add the pieces. And then we're going to get each new element. So here's where knowing the dimensions of the answer becomes really helpful because I like to sort of set up my space as to what it's going to be and then sort of fill in the elements as I go, okay? So let's start with A. A is a 2 by 2. B is a 2 by 2. So yes, we can multiply, and this is going to be a 2 by 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create my 2 by 2, which means I have 4 spaces to fill in, okay? And then I'm going to fill each of those in using this process. I'm going to multiply the first row by the first column. Meaning I'm going to take 1 times 5, and I'm going to take 4 times 9, and I'm going to add them together. That is my top row, right column, okay? Pause and think about that for a second. See if that makes sense. We're multiplying the top row by the left column. So we put that in the top left position. Now we're going to multiply the top row by the right column. So I'm going to multiply 1 times negative 7 and 4 times 6, and I'm going to add those together. That was my top row, right column, so I'm going to put that in the top right position. Now I'm going to move on to the bottom row, and I'm going to multiply the bottom row by the left column. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 5 and negative 2 times 9. And I'm going to add those together. And that was Bottom row, left column, so bottom left, it goes my -3. And then last, I'm going to do my bottom row and my right column, so 3 times -7 and -2 times 6. And then I'm going to add those together. And that was my bottom row, right column, so bottom right. There we go. There's the solution, okay? I don't need you to show me this work. However, sometimes it helps, especially when you're doing it by hand, to just write it down so you don't mess up a number or accidentally add something incorrectly. Especially when we're dealing with negatives, sometimes it can be a little difficult. So it's not a bad idea to write things down, but I'm not going to require you to, okay? Let's try another one. First thing we want to do is check the dimensions. This is a 2 by 2. B is also a 2 by 2. So our answer again is going to be a 2 by 2, meaning I have 4 spaces or elements to fill in. Okay? Pause and just see how you do. Maybe pause and just try the first row, first column, which is what I'm going to do first. First row, left column to get my top left position. Go ahead and pause it, see what you get, and then we can compare. Okay? So I got -3 plus -9, which gives me a total of -12 for that position. Hopefully you got the same thing. I'm going to move on to the top row and right column. Feel free to pause and try that as well. -15 and -6, which gives me -21. So I got -21 for that one. And now I'm going to move on to the bottom row left column, which is going to give me, 1 plus 6 is 7. And then I'm going to do bottom row right column, which gives me 5 plus 4, which is 9. Okay, so you should hopefully get the same thing. Again, show the amount of work that you feel like you need to show. I'm not going to be like super strict about that. The first thing I do want to see though is make sure that you check the dimensions. So this is a 2 by 3. This is a 3 by 2. The inner dimensions are the same, so we're good. Our answer is going to be a 2 by 2. Okay, so A times B is going to be a 2 by 2. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to multiply the first row or the top row by the left column. But this time we're going to multiply the 3. So 5 times -2, -1 times 4, and 2 times 1. And then I'm going to add all these together, which gets me -12. So it gets a little interesting when we have more pieces. Now, I don't expect you ever to do like a 4 column or anything, maybe a 1 by 4. But for the most part, we'll be using our calculator for the bigger ones, but definitely 2 by 2s and maybe 2 by 3s, 3 by 2s, stuff like that. We can do those by hand. And so I just want us to have the practice of doing that. Okay. So let's do this again. Top row, right column. I'm going to multiply all those together. So 5 times 6, -1 times 3, and 2 times -2. And then that gives me 23, and I was in the top right. So I had to stop and think about that for a second, make sure I'm putting it in the right position, which is why I really kind of like to draw the arrows. It helps me remember sort of where I'm at. Granted, it's a little easier to erase with my pen than maybe it is with your pencil on your paper, but try it, see if it works for you, or feel free to come up with your own organizational strategy, whatever that might be. So I'm -2 times 2, 2 times 4, and 4 times 1, which gives me 8. And then last, I'm going to do my bottom row right column, and I get 12, 6, and -8, which gives me 10. So we have an answer here. AB is equal to this matrix here. If I want to get nitpicky, I probably want to write AB is equal to, but since that was in the directions, I think we're good. Okay. Again, we're doing AB, so let's check the dimensions first. This is a 3 by 1, and this is a 1 by 2. So our inner dimensions are the same, which means that our answer is going to be a 3 by 2. So that means 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, and 2 columns. This is going to get a little interesting here. So top row, first column, I only have one thing to multiply. It's -1 times -5, which is 5. And then top row and then right column gives me a 4. And then middle row and left column gives me 10. And then middle row and right column gives me 8. And then bottom row and left column gives me negative 25 and negative 20. So that one was pretty easy because we only had one thing to multiply each time. You just kind of, I always enjoy the matrices. They're kind of fun, I think. And you take a 3x1 and a 1x2 and you have a 3x2 answer. And that it's just kind of neat how it works out and how it sort of works with the data. Hopefully you're feeling pretty good about finding the dimensions of the matrices and telling if you can multiply them and how that's going to be. Hopefully you're feeling comfortable with multiplying rows by columns and getting a good grasp of multiplication. Today we're focusing on multiplying without a calculator. So when you're working on your assignment, you should be doing this without a calculator to do the matrices. I'm okay if you want to use a calculator to add the numbers or whatever. But we're going to talk tomorrow about how to use the matrix applications on your calculator. That's what we want to not do by hand, okay? So hopefully you're feeling pretty good about this, and best of luck as you work on multiplying matrices.